Space, the boundary of human achievement, the new frontier.
It's just a coffin.
Yeah, right. And the Earth is flat.
In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It can be extremely harmful and result in severe trauma. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Flat Earth expert Mark Sargent thinks the moon landing was a hoax.
Technically, the moon itself is a hoax.
Right, but betting with Sportsbet's new iPhone app?
I could do this standing on my head.
Thanks, Gravity. Sportsbet's new iPhone app. It's
Hold on,
foolproof.
I know how we're different. Do you believe the Earth is flat?
I know it's flat. I walk on it. Holy sh**.
Do you think the Earth is flat, Snoop? What do you
It's a flat world after all.
think?
Smoke weed every day.
Broadcasting straight to you from a large spaceship currently at war with mainstream science. Meanwhile, the peanut gallery is wondering, what the hell are we doing here on Friday night? We never do Fridays. It's supposed, in fact, you guys are probably thinking, is something wrong? Is it the Mandela effect? No, it's not. We're just doing a special Friday show with our special guest from Ireland, who we'll get to in a minute. Welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which proposed that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Just Google Flat Earth Mark if you can't find it. Well, you're just not very good at the internet. Currently, the show is on Tuesday nights, normally, at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, but now it's Friday, 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. And yes, Caroline, if it is not January 3rd, yeah, you heard that right. It's like, what the hell's going on? 2024, then you are listening to a rerun. Don't forget, this show can be found on BitChute and Brighteon, Rockfin, Rumble, and Spotify. YouTube is not the end of Flat Earth. It is just the beginning. Quote of the day goes exactly like this fun thing. There are no shills on Flat Earth. Who said that? Me. And I've been saying it, and now I hope you're listening to me, because there aren't any. Now, there are some exceptions to this, of course. If you're Eric Dubé, you think that everybody's a shill except him. And if you're me, I'm on the other side. I think that nobody's a shill except possibly me, but only because people have been calling me that for 10 years.
Wait, what?
So, I know, right?
Now I'm
how's that
confused.
Exactly. So you can go completely both ends of the spectrum. However, I put a challenge out to anybody. If you think you know who the shills are in flat Earth, seriously, if you think you know, please email me at msargent23@comcast.net. That's msargent23 at comcast.net. All my doxed info has been in every description box of every video I've ever made. Please. And while you're at it, if you guys are curious, and I actually, not DJ curious, but just curious, I have a special thing for you. So if you want to know if you want to know why this is happening, I will send you a free episode. It's only like 200 megs. I'll send you the link for it for Twilight Zone. I can't remember what the episode number for it, but it is called Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. It's from 1960, and it goes into how suspicion can get the better of you for an entire neighborhood. Remember, these were people that like grew up together and lived next to each other in the same street in the late 1950s. So, but please, you can email me, and I will also send you that on top of the shill list you're going to send me. Sometimes it's hard to find flat Earth friends, and there is an easy way to find cool people like yourself and solid info. I'm going to rewrite this eventually. Normally, I'd say something really clever but David's moderating a thing for Austin right now, so he's not even listening. On your stationary horizontal level plane, blah, 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 David Weiss is a shell. The solution is simple. It's the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Watch the featured video every day, Shill, for 2 weeks and see what happens. It'll be the best $2.99 you've ever spent. Sell out. So sleepy. And because it's 10 p.m. on the East Coast, it's time to say goodnight to one of our listeners, Paige. She just put on her Three Musketeers pajamas, got a cup of cocoa with exactly 6 tiny marshmallows, and will probably listen to the playback in the morning. Good night, Paige.
Good night, Paige.
I wonder if she's listening right now. No, because David's doing something. Shout outs to Flat Earther Stephen Carpenter of the Deftones. Support the Flat Earth cause and get the coolest hoodies ever. It's so metal. Go to the Strong Dog family, won't you? Pick up some merch. And don't forget the Deftones are touring their North American tour, and they're going to do a few dates over in the UK. But their North American tour starts February 25th. And Stefan will be on here for episode 500, if I'm not mistaken. And starting next week, I will bookend the show with the Deftones promo on the beginning and the end. And every week, I will tell you what cities they're going to be doing that week. So you can go, again, Flat Earth rock star. He's one of the few celebrities like, yeah, I'm a rock star and I'm a Flat Earther. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what now?
Yeah, eventually, I would think the Deftones will make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, yes, the only person we know that gets government checks is Peanut. That's true. Peanut, apparently he gets a pass, like Lizbeth. Lizbeth, no one has made accusation, love it, against her at all. Right? Whitsit's, fighting for his life in another channel right now. Jaron is in the chat also doing the same. Lizbeth, taking selfies. Hey, my best life. How? How is this even freaking possible?
She was able to fly under the radar, they call it.
Really?
For now.
Pretty girls. What can you say? My co-hosts for the evening are normally in the upper left, Patricia Steer. I will keep this brief. Patricia is taking an extended leave of absence for an indefinite period of time. That's a nice way of knowing I don't know if or when she will come back. She is leaving for personal reasons. I am not going to speak for her. Her contact info is out there. There's the back channels. If anyone wants to ask her directly, please do. All I can say is that she is extremely disappointed in the Flat Earth community for the way things are going right now with the treatment of people. And I agree with her, which is why, I'm no shills on Flat Earth. So, Patricia, wish you well. I know you're probably listening, or maybe not. Maybe she's in the other thing. But love you dearly, and, we will talk again. She's not dead, just so you guys know. She's not dead. I didn't kill her. We didn't kill her. Well, DJ wouldn't never kill a fly anyway, but I definitely didn't kill her and bury her over there about 100 yards away. Didn't. So, you'll see her again. Don't worry. But when, I don't know. Until then, DJ and I and Peanut are going to carry on. Let's see. Anybody else? Emails? Nope. Meetups. There's going to be meetup January 25th in Minnesota. That promo is on my channel. And a meetup near where our guest is out in Wales. Flat Earth Social, they do a thing in the West UK, and that has now expanded. The Flat Earth Social is now going to be in Wales as well. That is in January 7th, and unfortunately, because I'm American, I can't tell you exactly where Wales is. Brian from Ireland will probably help us out there. Okay, last thing before we get to our special guests. What, Wales is under the water? They're not Atlantis. Oh, I get it, because Wales. Because it's the spelling. You got to understand that Peanut, I don't know what happened to him in the military, but he is the king of corn. He has got the corniest jokes, and they're all equally corny. My God, man. How? And he was probably the funniest guy in the tank. So it kills me.
He's got the delivery, though, and the look. It works.
And if you guys are wondering, by the way, we raised him up now. Peanut is this little peanut icon between DJ and I in the center there. There's this angry, grizzled-looking peanut that's smoking. This is a peanut you wouldn't want to eat. So, okay, let's run the 60-second clip before we bring on our guest. And the 60-second clip this week is called ISS Fake. And I put it all as one word so the censors didn't pick up on it as easily. And it's just a quick little thing to show you what happens on the ISS. And we'll discuss it for just a second because DJ pointed out something that I missed after the fact, but it really doesn't change the bearing of the video. So let's do it. Hey, what happens when I hit this button? So my Flat Earth friends message me and say, Mark, how did 2024 end for the community? Well, it was mixed. There was a really big distraction, which I covered in another video, and it kept everyone from looking at the obvious things, like this fun clip taken from the ISS this Christmas. Do your own research and don't forget how you got here. Welcome to 2025. It's going to be a great year. Whatever. I'm done. Whoa, that was rough. And because when I was making that, I had to listen to that song probably 10 times at least. And sections of it. I was chopping it up and it was like, oh my God. And so this morning in the shower, what do you think all of a sudden I was humming to? Yeah. And I am not a fan of the song to begin with. But I just wanted to remind people, and yes, DJ was quick to point out because he posted this on TikTok. It's like, that didn't happen this Christmas. And it's like, well, doesn't that help accentuate my point? Is that they do it every year. And they, again, matching outfits. And someone else, I love that they pointed out, they said, hey, maracas wouldn't work that well in 0G. It's like, you're right. They wouldn't. The maracas, I don't even know how they'd work. But the fact that, people don't understand how much money it costs per ounce if you believe in the ISS as advertised to ship stuff to the ISS. And yet, full-size guitar, a flute, maracas, matching outfits. The women had reindeer hats. The other guys had elf hats. And that's just for Christmas. I mean, they do Halloween, they do pranks, they have, for whatever reason, mysteriously, they have the jerseys of the Super Bowl teams every year. Okay.
Oh, there's no attic in the ISS? I mean, of course that would...
Really?
Hey, just play the other side, right? I don't know. But no, this year they had a tree even, and it's a little suspicious when they were supposed to be there for an 8-day tour, and it's months and months later.
Months, yeah. Yeah, and when they did their, okay, first off, when they did their Christmas video, that was a sad Christmas video. They looked terrible. And by the way, I had no idea that Mr. Nanosecond, I go back and I didn't realize that, really? He's back up there?
Yeah, I didn't know that either. We haven't heard anything about him being stuck in space, and is Sunita, are they drinking his pee? Like, come on, remember that whole piece?
Yeah, and you remember the stories like, oh, it's miserable, it's awful. Oh. It's like, really? Because you did a Christmas video with her. Just awful.
It all doesn't make sense.
Nope. So that's why I put on there, all the world's a stage. The ISS is a freaking joke. And there you have it. Okay. Anything else, DJ, before we bring on our special guest who we're holding? You know what? I got to mention this really fast. You guys got to understand that Brian is over in Ireland, and this is poetic justice for me because I have done several interviews here on the West Coast of the United States where I had to interview in normal business hours in the UK. And so I had to get up at frickin' 2. My favorite one was Russell Brand. And we didn't say, hey, can you get up for this? And it's like, it's going to be 3 a.m, but it's Russell Brand. So you know what? I'm going to do it. And I did. And, I fumbled through it as best I could. In this case, Brian in Ireland has been with us since 3 a.m. And I know he was up a little earlier because he was sending me slides. And so he is from the channel, Brian's Logic, and he is part of. I'm going to give credit to you. What do you call? What's the group called over there with you and Nathan Oakley's guys?
Flat Earth Debate.
Flat Earth Debate.
The Ball Busters, you could call it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. So I apologize that we kept you waiting, but we got to go through our normal stuff. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me on. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Cool.
I'm happy to be here, and I'll do my best to make it a success as much as possible. Some parts, the topic I'm going to go through, what happens is people tend to tune out slightly because they think they already know about it. But there's small little nuance that changes everything, if you understand what I mean. So
I do.
But anyway, it's not that it's boring. It's just that people go, I know about that, but you don't know about it. There's something you're not realizing. You're not going to wait. That's kind of the point.
I gotcha. I completely understand. Before we get to the part, and again, for those of you who aren't technical, we will be going through some technical stuff. That's just, we do this sometimes. But before we do that, I want you, because I love a good origin story, whether it be, Wolverine or Superman or She-Hulk. I was kidding about She-Hulk. I know, Peanut's like, oh my God. How'd you get into Flat Earth, Brian? What's your journey like? Can you give us sort of a summary?
Yes, I've given it before. I reckon I changed over from globe to flat faster than anyone ever. I changed in 8 seconds. Now
I don't believe it.
Yeah,
prove me wrong.
Yeah, I'll tell you the story. What it was is I had a lot of experiences when I was young. Now I'm not one of those people that said I always knew the Earth was flat. I'm not one of those people. They said it was a globe. I accepted it was a globe. But when I was young, my father used to like to go fishing because fishing is on both sides of our family. I hate fishing, but my father used to like to go fishing, and he used to bring me out in a small little boat. I'm talking, the biggest boat he had was maybe about 15 foot long, right? And there were smaller ones. Okay. So I'm out there in all kinds of weather, seeing every effect you can see at the horizon, on the water, off the water, or whatever. Every visual effect that's there, I saw it. And so I grew up viewing the coast and viewing the horizon a lot throughout my life. And then I remember flying to Australia, and I remember it was very long. It was a very long flight. I went from here to London, from Ireland to London, then flew from there to Hong Kong, and that was mostly during night time. But when I was flying from Hong Kong to Sydney, I flew over a large portion of the Australian outback. And because they get hardly any rain, they have a very dry climate in some of the, no humidity in the air much. And so you can see very far because you don't have all that humidity causing problems and clouds and all the rest of it, right? And I remember being slightly disappointed when I was looking out the window, saying to myself, where is the Earth curve? Right now, at the time, this is going back 25 years ago. At the time, I wasn't thinking from a mathematical point of view, whether you could or couldn't see it or any of the rest of it. I was like, where is the Earth curve? And I remember saying to myself, how I dealt with it was, I said to myself, I guess Australia just must be a very flat country. That's what I said to myself, right? And it's like not realizing, no, Brian, the whole Earth is flat. It's not just Australia, right? But I didn't realize that at the time. In 2015, I looked at one of Eric DeBay's videos popped up, and it was a video from his original channel, the one that got taken down by YouTube. And in the video, the start of the video, he made two statements. He said, the horizon, and this is exactly what he said, and it was changed. He said it different, and other people said it different afterwards, because the ballers would change what was actually originally said. And what he actually said was, the horizon always appears to rise to eye level. Now, it doesn't actually rise to eye level. It appears to rise to eye level because it stretches out in front of you. But he didn't give that caveat. He just said it appears to rise to eye level. And he said that can't happen on a globe. And as he was saying it, that was going through my mind. And I went, and the amount of times I saw the horizon and saw it move about and all that kind of went through my mind. And I laughed out loud. And I remember looking at his at the timer on the video from when I started it, and I was laughing out loud, and I knew the Earth was flat, and it said 00 hours, 00 minutes, 08 seconds. And I knew at that point on, it was flat. There was no way around it for me at that point. Because it can't do that. The horizon cannot appear to rise up, right, to meet your eye level. Obviously, it's only an apparent thing, but it does do it, even from an airplane. It can stretch out if you're on a globe, there's no doubt about it. It can stretch out away from you, but it must go down, down, down. The difference in angle between you on an airplane and the horizon, it depends on the weather and how far away the horizon is for a start. But it's always going to be in relation between the altitude of the airplane and sea level, which is two flat planes. It's not going to be going down over a ball, as it would have to do. It doesn't do that. Right. So that was it for me. 8 seconds in, it's flat.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
That's
wow.
That is a new record, I'm sure. I've never... No, seriously. And you beat it by a long way, because the closest one to you was a woman that went to a meetup in Los Angeles that I happened to be at, and she was taking an Uber near it, and the Uber driver was one of ours, and he was pitching us during the Uber drive, which, you know, because why not, right? And 20 minutes later, she's like, she goes, because she didn't have anywhere really important to go. She goes, you said there's a meetup you're going to end up going to? Yeah, right after I drop it off. She goes, you know what? Go to the meetup. I'll go with you.
Oh, wow.
And she goes straight to the meetup. She walks up to me, and it was one of the weirdest conversations. You know, my standard pitch I do is like, so how long have you been with us? And she looks at her watch and she goes, what time is it now? And I go, really? That's really, really cool. And to your point, Brian, it's I'm glad you mentioned that. Of course, you know, the fact that you flipped in 8 seconds, of course you did, because you've been staring at the horizon in various forms for years and years, right? So for you, once you got it, you got it. But your point where the horizon, you know, apparently rises, and people don't understand, which is why is one of the proofs I've always asked for, which is, if you kept going up, of course the horizon would have to go down, because eventually, if you keep going up, the whole Earth, all the land masses is going to eventually curve on all sides into a ball. And that's what's never happened from any space organization ever. We have never seen that footage where, you know, where the camera pointed down, where it turns into a ball. The last, of course, being the Tesla Roadster from space. That's like, oh, hey, where's the footage where, you know, it's like, you know, there was like, oh, rocket booster 1, booster 2, they fall away and cut to globe, and it's like, you're already there, and you know, that's by the globe, and it's like, well, what about the transition shots? What the hell happened, right? And they wouldn't show it. So good stuff. Love it.
Because the horizon is not the leading geometric edge of a globe. It's not a geometric location. It's an optical location. It changes with weather, elevation, and optics. You know, that's why you can, you know, so it is, because of that, it's like a rainbow, you know, in some ways. You can never get to it It's always there, but you can never get to it. It's always somewhere else. Now, that would be true enough on a globe too, as in it's always going to be out in front of you. But it has to be the leading geometric edge of that globe. And actually, technically, it couldn't be called an horizon, because horizon, the word that the orientation of horizontal comes from horizon, and the orientation of horizontal as rate of slope 0, which means there is no curvature to the horizon. You know,
so did you just debunk the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow as well, all in one? Because
well, I tell you, if that could be found, one of us would have found it.
Well,
I trust your research on that, being from Ireland and all.
By the way, Brian, did you ever see? Have you ever seen any? I'm sure you may have bumped into it online. The YouTube videos of people that have taken helicopters over the top of rainbows.
No, I haven't. I have zero rainbow research done.
You really?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna pick. I will refrain from doing Ireland jokes. You know, the pot of gold though was pretty good. Which is if you take a helicopter, you guys can look it up all day long. You can just go to YouTube, and that is rainbow from a helicopter. And when you fly over it, it's a rainbow dome. It's this big ring, and it's in a dome fashion. It's just freaking eerie, and it's like, oh my gosh, of course. Because when you're looking at down below, of course, it looks like a dome, but it's two-dimensional, right? And you can never catch it, of course. You know, you can't actually get to the rainbow, as far as I can tell. But in a helicopter, you can fly right over the center of it. So
that's very interesting. Sorry, go on, DJ. Curious.
Well, just bring us back to, how did you know from looking at the horizon? Is it part of your profession that you're used to? Are you a pilot or something like?
No, I was forced to go out into fishing out into very small fishing boats with my father for a long time when I was a child. So I had nothing else to do. I didn't like fishing, so I had to just sit there, right, in cold weather, and I was sitting with about an average of a 3-foot eye height above the water level below me, and I'm sitting there looking out at what's going on on the water, waiting to go home again, because I was too young to be left at home on my own, so he had to bring me with him, so I was stuck out there with him.
Yep, same with me. Not to your extremes, but I was forced on many a fishing boat, out here, with friends that like to fish. One in particular, if you're ever listening, Mike, and again, fishing, back then in the late 70s and early 80s, it's I know it's content, it's peaceful, right? And it's quiet and stuff like that, but my God, it's boring. You're just waiting, right? You're sitting there, you're staring, and it's cold. Well, I can't even imagine what it's like where you are near. What sea were you?
It would have been off the south coast of Ireland, so I'm not sure what sea that. It would have been the Atlantic coast, I'd say. But it is
they'd be the North Atlantic, which is awful.
Really bad, and it's wet. No matter how nice of a day it is, you're always going to be colder out in a boat once you go out, because the temperatures are lower out on the water. So no matter how nice a day it is, unless it's very warm, you're going to be cold when you go out on the boat. And because if it's a small boat, you're going to be, every little 1-foot roller on the water is going to cause the boat to go up and down by at least 1 foot. So the amount of seasickness is ridiculous on those small boats. So,
no fun.
A cousin of mine said to me, he has a small fishing trawler, and he said to me about 2 years ago, he said, would you be interested in coming out on my boat? Do you want to come out on my boat for a day or whatever? I said, can you land a helicopter on it? And I said, because if you can't, I'm not interested. I'm only interested on something big enough you can land a helicopter on, and that there's sofas on and luxury. I'm not interested in being on a cold fishing boat. I'm done with that.
Yeah, believe it or not, the boats, because we have big transport ferries up here in the Northwest near Seattle, and it doesn't make that much of a difference, because then the motion is bigger, it's more gradual, but you still feel it. You know what I mean?
You still feel it, but it's just it's you still feel it. I'm not going to, because I've been on ferries now and there was some rough weather. But the thing about it is, if you're on a type of boat that will have a helicopter on it, and it's got luxury on it, the chances are it'll be in the Mediterranean or somewhere like that, not the North Atlantic.
Good point. Absolutely.
So staring out at the horizon, you were used to it, just always, you could get to it each time in the boat. Is that what you were realizing, that there really is no specific horizon point is just what it appears to be? Is that how you knew? I mean, I'm still trying to.
Yeah, see, what became very obvious about it when I was younger is that it's not a place it could get to, and it can change its distance. Like, it can be in the distance, there could be a boat, and the horizon appears in front of it. An hour or two later, when the weather has changed, the horizon is behind it, but the boat is anchored, it hasn't moved. Things like that. So I was one of the, I can't say it was the first person, but one of the first people making the argument about the horizon, holding the ballers to task on it, about asking them, in this image, in this observation, where is your geometric horizon edge that should be at this distance in comparison to the observer's height? This is going back years ago. And they could never give me an answer because the horizon was never where they needed it to be. And when I actually eventually learned about all of their mathematics, even within their paradigm, they claim the horizon is not the geometric leading edge of a globe. They claim it's a consistently refracted position. It's not refracted. It's just something they must say. And that means the horizon can never, because it's like a get-out clause within their mathematics, the horizon will never match the geometry of a globe of radius 3959 miles. So consequently, every horizon you see is a debunk of the globe. Every single one debunks the globe because it doesn't match their geometry. It's basically that simple.
Yeah. So through the fishing torture of your youth, you basically started deciphering every visual distortion on the water that ever was.
Yeah, I didn't have knowledge of what an inferior mirage was or whatever. As in, I didn't know the name of it, but I knew what it was to see it, and I knew the effect of it and what it showed you. And it can, like the inferior mirage. One thing about that is that, and it's a point I've made, and people haven't really caught on to it, but I'm surprised they didn't catch on to it, is if you see an inferior mirage in an observation, that means there's an actual physical, tangible surface, because it requires a surface to happen on. The inferior mirage, and it's always it's always on a surface, and mostly it's always on water, at water level, especially water that's lower in elevation. Like, you don't see inferior mirages looking up at the side of a cliff or a mountain or on the side of an airplane. Right. You see them on roads, and you see it on the water, which means that it's on an actual physical, tangible surface. So the inferior mirage itself debunks the heliocentric paradigm. Just that alone. But it's so simple, people just won't put their weight into it, which I understand, but still,
Got it.
So that's all you needed, and then it just kept developing from there, because obviously the flat Earth proofs start to roll in. What was the next one that you kind of caught on?
Well, it was kind of funny. Once I accepted at that point, because I remember laughing. And why I laughed when I watching Eric DeBay's video 8 seconds in, why I laughed was when you know something is not right, and you didn't know what it was, you just knew something was not right. All my life, especially as I started becoming an adult, something is not correct here. And as soon as I found out what that thing was, which was that the Earth is not a globe, it made me laugh. But I accepted it at that point. So from that point on, I've been in a very fortunate position, because I've known it's flat from that very moment. I didn't kind of need more. It's like I didn't need more evidence, but because I found the topic enthralling, and because I found our opposition to be so lacking, and also to be so devious at times, that it's like I felt the need to learn about it as every part of it. I can hand on heart say that I know as much about the topic as anyone who's ever lived. I put it that way, right? Because
that's awesome.
There's so many parts of the topic of flat versus globe that, like, people never fully research and learn about. I've done my best to learn about every single part of it, so that no matter what question comes up, I can give an answer. And if I don't know something, like if someone says, what's the sun, or how does it do what it do, I don't know, so I can't. If I don't know and I have no way to find out, I don't make the claim.
All right.
If it makes any difference to you, Mark, actually, just before we go on, I became a flat earther not too long a while now, but not too long before your first appearance on Coast to Coast Radio in 2015.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, if you remember that.
So you've been, you've been with it for a while, yeah. And the Coast to Coast interview again was a complete surprise on my part. I got an unsolicited phone call from one of their producers, and it was embarrassing. It was my most embarrassing call ever, which was they said, "Well, okay, well, you know, we want to get you on the show, but what's your book?" And I go, I don't have a book. Oh, okay, well, what DVD do you got? I don't have a DVD. And then they said, look, man, give us something. What's your website? I go, look, I've only been doing this for like 4 or 5 weeks. I go, I don't. And she goes, all right, give me the nickel tour. Go. And so I gave her 5 minutes of and she goes, all right, you're on, a week from Wednesday or whatever it was. It's like, seriously? And I didn't know what his big deal was until Rob Skiba asked me later. He's going, how long were you pitching those guys before you got on? I go, pitching? And he goes, dude, I've been trying to get on that show for 2 years. And I go, what? So I knew there was something special about the topic. It wasn't me. It was the topic. So it was wonderful.
Well,
good. It was.
I remember your appearance on it, and see, at the time, I would have listened to that some years beforehand. Yeah. Different things that have on about UFOs and different things. Because it was actually the biggest show of its kind at the time. There was nothing to compare to it. There was only smaller shows that were way smaller. So when you got onto that, you literally straight away got onto the biggest show there is. I remember it was on a Sunday when you were on, and if I remember correctly, I remember because the topic and your confidence in it, the way you relayed it, caused such a stir that they were forced to call you back on the following Thursday for a second show, because they had a load of people that wanted to give out about what you were saying. And there were a lot of angry people there. But they actually brought you back on a second time, and I don't know if I've never witnessed them ever bringing you back on again. They literally that I even know of, they avoided the topic from then on in.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, again, he treated me really nice. My disarming ability, there was this one moment, I don't want to drag it out, this show isn't about me, but there was this moment where he was reading the chat room, where George Norrie was reading the chat room, and he was going, look, I see you in the chat room, you're saying, George, destroy him, right? He goes, but if I don't let Mark talk, he's not going to get out his message. And I'm like, what? It's like, what's happening? And so he didn't. He treated me with kid gloves, and I was like, oh, hey, great, wonderful. And I just got to do, my show, and I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled. But I did not know until after the fact. That's the best way to do it, isn't it? When you don't know what kind of show you're on, and then people are like, oh, great show. It's like, wait, you listen to it? It's like lots of people listen to it. It's like, really?
It's like turning up on Joe Rogan, but sorry, DJ Curious.
Yeah, and by the way, I am still crossing my fingers that one day Joe will cave in and bring one up. Because right now, nobody's gotten on there. The closest that anybody got was Eric Dubay, and that was only because Eddie Bravo wanted him to do a debate against Neil Tyson. And of course, Neil Tyson, backed out and said, nah, but after he said yes during the show, I knew he wasn't going to do it. But I'd love to go on Joe Rogan's show just to say that I went on.
Yeah.
At the time, it was like, sorry, were you going to say something, DJ Curious?
Oh, I knew about Coast to Coast AM because they talked all about aliens and UFOs even when I was like, in my teenage years. So I loved listening to that as well. And for Mark to go on there and be the antithesis of what a lot of those conspiracies were must have really shaken things up.
Yeah, it was, and why not? I mean, producers are out there, looking for new stuff, and we just happen to be in the right place at the right time. Where it's like, again, it was like they were treating it like they'd never heard it before. It's like flat Earth. Oh, right, that's a thing, and it's like, yeah, it's been a thing for some time, but people treat it like it was brand new, and I was like, all right. Sure, great, wonderful. Well, I'm all over it. Yeah. So you know as much as the next guy. So what aspect would you? Because obviously we're not going to be able to go into everything. What aspects would you like to look at tonight? And by the way, we'll do some slides, then we'll go to our only break, and then we'll come back and hopefully finish up the rest of the slides. What's the deal with the airplane? Why am I looking at an airplane on my screen?
what I want to go through here is as succinctly, I can never say that word, but I think you understand what I was trying to say, as succinctly as possible. Succinctly as possible.
Still not getting it. Go ahead.
As simply as possible, right? I want to go through the lift effect, right? And then I want to top it off, or the capstone of the absolute proof. It's the pitch data, which is not an argument. Pitch data is just a fact. I'm going to go through how the lift effect works. Then I'm going to go to the pitch data. Then I'm going to show, basically, the end is just me pointing out what it would mean for a globe. Basically the argument, the lift effect argument, the flight argument in general, because not just the lift effect, but I'm just going to focus on the lift effect. The flight argument in general is the best argument that there is. And the reason I say that is celestial navigation, right, surveying, things like that. They're brilliant arguments for proving the geometric, what the world is geometrically. But the problem with them is that the average everyday person wouldn't even know what a theodolite is. They certainly wouldn't know what needs to go into celestial navigation and different things like that. So the problem is you have to learn a lot about that. But when it comes to airplanes and the lift effect, it's very simple to understand. So once you understand the lift effect and what's required for that to happen, you can very quickly understand, hang on a minute, that cannot take place if we lived on a globe. It just cannot take place. And before I ever got the actual pitch data itself, I was using just the lift effect for several years, and nobody, regardless of what pilot they were, nobody could deny what I was saying, because I knew it's undeniable. The pitch data itself, I spent years trying to get that, and I also got other people on board who were looking for it as well, but I was, that I'm aware of, the first person to look for that data. And I knew if I could get that data, that I would have the smoking gun. There's no way out. It's so simple to understand, anyone can see it, and it's unbeatable, basically. Basically, there's no response to it, basically. But I tried my best to get it, but I also hassled Wolfie 6020, and I spent years, and I got other people to ask him the same thing. Where is the pitch data? Get the pitch data. The best I got out of Wolfie was, he said it would cost, I think he gave me a quote of 100 or 150,000 US dollars or something to get that data, and you'd have to go through all different channels. And he was saying basically it was going to be very, very difficult to get. I was saying, but not for you, I said. You could get it because of your position as a pilot, first military pilot, now commercial pilot. You could definitely get that data. And he refused to get it. Now, I questioned other pilots who didn't want to know what about getting it, people who were ballers, who were claiming to be pilots, and they didn't want to know about it. He was the main focus simply because he was the first person, the first commercial pilot on their side to come into the arena, and basically he was being very not aggressive with everyone, but he was being smart with everyone and trolling people and just basically being a pain. So when I put it to him to get the pitch data, because he knew when I mentioned pitch data, he knew already when I was talking about the lift effect, he knew that there was no way around that. So all he could do was basically attack me personally. But when I said pitch data, he didn't want to know, and he basically eventually started coming to my channel on his backup account. And I eventually banned his backup account simply because I said, you either come here on your main account so people know it's you, so you can't just get something wrong or have a problem and things go wrong on you in this account and then you can deny that's you. You have to be here on your main account. So I said I banned his extra or a separate account. I said, you're only allowed on my channel on your main account. And he never came back. But the main thing is that he was making all kinds of claims about the globe, and yet his job proves the Earth is definitely flat. And
Wolfie would be a dedicated troll channel over in your neck of the woods? Or is he one of...
Wolfie's he's Australian.
Okay.
6020, he's Australian, and he's been a big voice on the globe side he turned up in 2016, so he's been a big voice on the globe side. He had I don't know if you have ever had much interaction with him, but almost everyone has in some way, shape, or form. You know.
I have, but I haven't seen him compared to some of the other big channels recently. I know, I remember the name. It's and so he didn't want you to start doing a lot of research on the airplane pitch data.
Well, he refused to get it. I mean, he refused to get it. He said, "You get the data." I said, "You get the data. You're the one claiming it's a globe." I said,
Right.
You get the data. You could get it much easier. You're a commercial pilot, much easier than me. He didn't want to know.
Got it.
Eventually, I got the data, would you believe, off a guy who was a bowler, right? Back some months ago, back about, I think it was halfway through 2024. And this guy got it. He found it on the NTSB website. And that means it was for free. So Wolfie and other pilots who told me, oh, that could cost thousands upon thousands. It's like, it's for free on the NTSB website. I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't know that. You know what I mean? But they were bought.
Or they were trying to get thousands of dollars from you, either way.
Well, one thing is for certain.
And by the way,
to them.
Real quick, for the Americans, NTSB is the National Traffic Safety Board.
Yeah, just to put it out there, just so people know. The data that I have and that's been shared here is from a flight where there was no injuries and no deaths. There was just an issue with an engine and they had to make an emergency landing. No, everything was fine. Everyone deplaned, all staff and crew and passengers deplaned, totally safe. Nothing happened other than they had to get a different plane. That was it. So just so people know, it's from the NTSB, but it's not data from a flight where there was a crash or anything happened like that.
So can we go back? What is it exactly that you're saying about the plane? Are we referencing this thrust, weight, lift, and drag right now, or are we getting to that?
Yeah, we'll get into that if you want to get into it, if you're ready.
Well, because a lot of Glober friends of mine, they will say, well, you need to have gravity for a plane to fly. And so maybe you can kind of help break it down for us to kind of combat what are the best arguments that Globers will say, because they will say, your gyroscope proves that we're on a globe. They'll say that we need gravity. Actually, I have close relatives that are pilots, and they'll be like, they look at me with a blank stare when I try to have this conversation. So it would really help me if you can give us some talking points for planes and their flight and how it proves that it's a flat Earth.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I know about the whole gravity thing. I dealt with that years ago. For a start, they'd have to define which gravity they're talking about, because there's actually 5 of them, right? That would be number one. And the one they would refer to would be the wrong one for their paradigm. But that's coming from a position of them not knowing it. Most people don't know any different. They just go, gravity means weight, this kind of thing. So that's just a lack of understanding of the current paradigm. But it doesn't matter, because I'm actually going to address that very argument within what I do here, within what I show here. And their claim actually doesn't come down to the gyro, but down to something called pendulous vanes. But the whole argument with pendulous vanes was destroyed in 2016 by Adam Meakin. Mark, you know Adam Meakin. I don't know if you know him, DJ.
Yep, I know him.
Right, well, he got data that showed, accelerometer data that showed all the vectors of down were all parallel over a 2-hour period. Now, if that was flying, and the plane was flying at about 500 miles an hour. So if that was the situation, that after 2 hours, there's no way that those down vectors can be parallel. They have to consistently be divergent because they're going to the center of a sphere. And his data, but because he was just Adam Meakin, a pharmacist from Nottingham in the UK, it was easy to hand wave away. But the pitch that I have comes from an official source. It can't be hand waved away. And it supports his data as being correct. So there's another argument made by Quantum Eraser, and the pitch data supports his argument as well. And it supports what I talk about concerning lift. Well, lift supports it, kind of thing. So, I mean, when they say gravity, they're referring to weight. And what they're trying to say is that the pendulous vanes, what they are, is they're a vacuum system, a weighted vacuum system. The easiest way to describe them is this: is a damper system. Like a damper inside a big building when there's an earthquake. You have that big ball or different damper system. They have them on ships as well. It's like to give stability to the building or to the ship or whatever during an earthquake or rough waters or whatever. That's what the pendulous vanes do. What they do is when the gyro is knocks, when there's a bit of torque on the gyro, it can create precession. And what the pendulous vanes do is that it causes a vacuum to happen, which then basically causes the pendulous vanes to correct the gyro back to horizontal. So the whole point of the pendulous vanes is that they stop the gyro from moving from its position. Like the gyro was already pretty much rigid in space, but the pendulous vanes make sure that it's absolutely rigid. So when you're in a fighter jet, for instance, and you're doing a lot of acrobatics, you might be in a dogfight or something, not me, but people who do fly them, right? The chances of your gyro being knocked out by all those different motions because of the torque is possible. But with the pendulous vanes, it recorrects the gyro straight back to the horizontal it was at. So it never allows the gyro to leave that horizontal. Now, in a big plane, unless you're doing a lot of big banking and stuff like that, in a big plane, like a commercial plane, the gyro won't be knocked out. So the pendulous vanes won't hardly have to do anything. But the whole point of them is to create a situation where the gyro isn't moving. Whereas if you take that into what they think is happening on a globe, then they think that the pendulous vanes are pulling the gyro into a different position all the time so it can go around a curved earth, right? Which is nonsense, which is the antithesis, I can never say that word either, the opposite, let's just say, of what the pendulous vanes are actually designed for and actually do. What that would be the gyro being fluid in space. But the whole point of the pendulous vanes is to make sure that the gyro is rigid in space and continues to hold the horizontal it starts with. And I've had pilots who've contacted me privately and who've spoke to other people saying that the argument I make with lift and the pitch data can't be beaten. There was even one of them, Nathan Oakley, was doing a meet and greet some months back during 2024, and there was a pilot who listened to the show and was used to me talking on the show, and there was two people in the audience, one guy who was a flat earther over years, I can't remember the man's name now, and this commercial pilot, and this commercial pilot was retired, and he has several decades of experience, and he told Nathan, he said, Nathan, you need to listen to Brian, what he's talking about concerning the pitch data, that is the thing. He said, that is the thing, it's unbeatable. Planes do not do what they would need them to do. And I've had pilots contact me and say, state to me, not that I needed them to, because I'm fully aware of the facts, but just because it's nice for people to hear, I've had pilots contact me and leave comments and state that what our opposition claim is so ridiculous, and even point out why it's ridiculous, extras to do with the pendulous vanes and that, to make it impossible. But all that won't matter, because if any of what they were saying was happening, it would show in the pitch data, because that's where it would have to show. So when I show you that data and I go through the lift effect here in a while, you'll see how it's just there is no argument from them that they can make. Nothing. All they can do, the most their opposition can do, is basically go into complete absurdum, where basically they're going into complete crazy world that has no relevance whatsoever to how a plane actually flies. That's the best way to describe it.
Right.
So,
yeah, how can we break that down even more? Just a couple sentences. Mark, do you have any?
Well, the short version is and by the way, forgive me, because I don't have a lot of people that throw pendulous vanes.
Yes.
Pendulous vanes. And Peanut, can you spell that for me in chat? Possibly. I know I'm making you work. The pendulous vanes, what they're saying is, no, the pendulous vanes are what are adjusting the gyro for the globe. And what Brian says, no, that's not what the pendulous vanes do. The pendulous vanes, if anything, make sure the gyro absolutely does not move when you're flying. So again, and I wouldn't surprise me that a global, that some pilots would throw that out there, or people that know pilots. It's like, oh no, the pendulous vanes take care of it. It's like, no, no, they don't. you're using them completely the opposite of what you're saying that they should represent. And so between that and the pitch data you're going to show us, let me see. Under the water things. What? Where'd you paste it? Peanut? I don't see it. Are you looking? Oh, he's still trying to find it because he can't spell it really well.
But that's why. Yes, veins, as opposed to vein, not VEINS, VANES.
Oh, like weather vanes.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's the argument there. And again, I have not heard anyone come back. Most of the people don't even understand. The general public is dumb as a bag of wet hair. PENDULOUS veins. The space veins. They don't understand, that planes, of how a plane works. You got to remember, the average American, not picking on Americans, don't know how a plane even gets off the ground.
Most people don't.
Let alone, I know.
And that's what I'm going to show here, how they do what they do. And I'll show the implications of what is being claimed by our opposition with pendulous veins and how it would actually work out in flight, if hypothetically that happened.
Let me read this really quick. This will be for DJ, although I'm sure he's probably reading it already. The vanes are tiny holes that swing freely and allow air to pass in and out of the gyro's case. When the gyro is level, the vanes cover their ports halfway, allowing air to exit evenly. If the gyro tilts, the vanes move to close or open one port, creating a force that rotates the gyro back, into an upright position. So they're gyro stabilizers. More than anything. I honestly, till tonight, I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought the gyro was a standalone baby, and I didn't realize it had help. And it does.
It's the torque of the gyro rotating, you see. That torque, when there is a movement of the plane, when the plane makes a big movement, let's say a fast, especially a fighter jet, when it's making a banking or a quick descent or something, that's what can knock out the gyro. So then your gyro is not aligned with horizontal like it should be. It's creating a different thing. At that point, it's a pitch above or below horizontal, and that's not good to you. You need it to be horizontal because that's your reference for your pitch, which is all part of the lift effect. And that's all they do is they're a stabilizer. That's what they do.
Right. Yeah. And again, one more thing, and then we'll go to break here in a little bit. But I want to mention this really fast. We could probably start on your thing, which is for those the basic stuff. A gyro is spun up when you're on the ground, when you're on the tarmac, completely level, and it stays that way once you get off the ground, and it's done that way deliberately. So no matter the disorientation you're feeling as a pilot, you can stare at the ball, and it will be orientated with your position that was already on the ground, and it shows you what's level. Even though, because human perception, we are terrible at that. We do not know. There are pilots that have been in all sorts of weird angles and not known it, and so the gyro really, really, really helps the pilot in letting him know what level is, which is why we try to reference it whenever we can when it comes to planes.
Yeah,
and is that different or in line or the same as the artificial horizon? Is that a different instrument?
Well, the artificial horizon is creating it's very similar. It's creating a horizontal for you. Some people will refer to the attitude indicator as the artificial horizon sometimes, but there is another instrument. There is the HUD, which creates an artificial horizon. You could say the attitude indicator and the horizontal gyroscope is the artificial horizon, because what it is it's parallel to sea level and parallel to the horizon. So that's why it's sometimes called the artificial horizon.
Okay. Well, I guess before or after we come back from break, how would a globe person respond to this? A pilot, what is it that you catch them with?
Well, it's not a trick, you see. I just point out the facts of aerodynamics, and then I support it with the data, and it just can't be argued with at that point.
And since and we'll get to it, but what he's saying is because the average general public can't grasp it. They don't. It's not a trick. What you just said is just that you can show. It's like with some of our other arguments that are a little tougher to follow. You throw it at people and they stare at it, and it's gonna take a while for it to sink in. So
and that's where I'm at. I think right now of what exactly it's proving.
Okay.
You'll see
Well,
we'll probably have to break this at first, and when we come back, then I'll get started on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We're
We are
close.
going to go to a break. You get like 3-4 minutes, and the screen will change, and then you'll know when we come back because you'll see me probably drumming. So here we go. Don't go anywhere, guys. Hey, look, it's a plane.
Introducing the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock App Meetup Maker. Never miss another meetup again. You can look up meetups in several different ways. Sort by date. You can search by location or within a 500-mile radius. To create and list your own meetup, enter the date. Give the meetup a name, a location name, add a photo, enter your contact information, create a group chat name, and then fill out the description with all of the details. Select your background color and hit the Save button to add your meetup to the list. Once the meetup is saved, it will ask you to create a group chat for all of the meetups so people can join the group and start a local chat community. Select Public Group, add your welcome message, and your meetup is now available for all to see. To make sure you don't miss another meetup in your area, you can select your desired radius and whether you want push notifications or email or both. Whenever a new meetup is added in your selected radius, you get notified. The Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock Meetup Maker, bringing people together all around the plane.
Join me, Karen B, every Moon Day at 9:30 a.m. for Coffee Talk on YouTube, Rumble, and Rockfin. You never know what you'll learn about in the coffee shop. Open topic and open phones, y'all. And also for meetups, local meetups. If you want to have your meetup listed on flatearthfestivals.com for free, please email flatearthfestivals@protonmail.com.
Welcome back to Strange World Part 2 of 2. It's you, me, the always delightful DJ Curious. And our special guest calling in from Ireland, where it is now 4 in the morning, Brian. From
Hey.
Brian's Logic. Hey.
So, do you
All right,
want to
you
get stuck into this?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Hit us.
Okay. The first slide is already up.
Okay.
I'll speak about that slide. Okay, a lot of people, I'm sure most people at some point saw a slide like this where it shows an airplane. It shows these 4 words: lift, weight, thrust, and drag. Now, what it shows is that thrust is forward, drag is backwards, lift is upwards, weight is downwards, right? Thrust opposes drag, right? Lift opposes weight. Okay, so how it works is this: you need to have enough lift generated to oppose the weight of the plane. So if you don't have enough lift generated, then you won't overcome the weight of the plane. So consequently, what will happen is the plane will start falling out of the sky, basically, right? So to oppose the full weight of the plane, you need to have what's known as 100% positive lift. If you have any negative lift, that means that, let's just say you have 80% positive lift. That means you have 20% negative lift. That means there's 20% of the weight of the plane that's not being accounted for, right? That means 20% of the weight of the plane is dragging the plane down towards the ground. So you must generate, the pilot must make sure that the way they're flying is generating 100% positive weight, 100% positive lift to overcome the weight, and has enough thrust to overcome the drag. But we're only going to focus mostly on the lift and the weight. If you could go to my next slide, please, Mark.
Okay. While I am doing that, I have got to remind people that, you know what? During the break, that was Joe Jackson stepping out from his album
Night and Day.
Oh, and Peanut's now reminding me that I can't change it like that, can I? Can I not? Hang on. 1 second. Slides. How come I can't change it? Unload image window. Oh, because it's transparent? Oh, is that image transparent? Okay. How about this? Can you see it on screen?
Yeah, I can see it once everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's transparent. That's okay. No worries.
The next one will be the same.
Okay.
Okay. So this is not part of a plane. This is what a theodolite, or it's an auto level, right? A diagram, right? The reason I'm showing this is that the whole point of this is that it works the same way as the gyro in the plane. Now, not the same function, but it's the whole point of it is it's creating a horizontal and a vertical. That's the whole purpose of it. And you can see the red writing there that shows the red shows the amount of pitch from horizontal up to vertical, and vertical back down to horizontal, and around in 360 degrees.
Got it. It's for those of you who can't see it because it's it's pretty small. It's degrees. So both the red and the blue is in degrees.
So if your audience can't see it, you can go to the fourth diagram.
No. Well, no, we'll no worries. You're good. Keep going.
So if you go to the next diagram, please, the third one. Please, Mark.
The third one. All right. Give me a second. I'm going to shrink this baby down. This way I can keep them kind of lying around.
Take our time.
Third one. Third one will be this one. Yeah, you're right. This one's also going to be transparent, which is fine. Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I have different arrows here, right? I have a blue line that's straight across the horizontal as it's going from 0 across to 0 on the red, the red indicators there. Right. I have an orange arrow. That orange arrow is about almost 5 degrees, or about 5 degrees above horizontal. Okay, that is between 3 and 5 degrees above horizontal is what most pilots, well, basically all pilots, at cruising altitude and cruising speed, that is the amount of pitch that they will hold at a constant above horizontal, right?
So nose up 3 to 5 degrees at any given point.
Yeah, because they have to do that, because that's how lift is generated. If you want to go on to, I'll continue on with this for a moment. The kind of off-green arrow, the blue, I should call it, arrow, is at 10 degrees, right? That would be the amount of degrees above horizontal that a plane would be when it's coming into land, between 10 and 12 degrees, something like that. So you see them coming into land, they're coming in at that degree. The purple arrow, that's up around 25 or 22, right? So anything from about 15 up to 25, that is going to lead a pilot into what's known as a stall position. And that basically means is they lose lift and they basically they start losing lift and losing control of the plane. But what happens is the nose of the plane is up and the tail of the plane is down. So they lose control of the plane and they start falling out of the sky, basically. Right. The green arrow is an arrow of 10 degrees below horizontal. The only time they will have a pitch below horizontal is when they are when they are changing altitude. Now they don't have to; they can change altitude by changing their airspeed, but they can also change it by pitching below horizontal. My point is not that that's the only way they can change an altitude. My point is that when they pitch below horizontal, it is always a descent. Always, at all times, a descent. They're never not descending when they're pitched below horizontal. Okay, if you go on to the next one, please, Mark.
All right. Next one, I believe, is this one. Okay.
Thank you.
Ooh, gotta shrink this. Well, I can leave this up on. You know what? We'll just make this one full screen. How's that?
Yeah. Thank you. Whatever is the best option. Okay. Once again, I have a black serrated line here. That's it, and I have the descent angle. I have an orange arrow that's here above this horizontal line parallel with sea level, this purple line, right? That's cruise angle. I have landing angle up here, which is the green, and I have stall angle, which is the red. So same as I went through before. Over here then I have it says chord line, and I have like a little oval shape and a serrated green line through it. The oval shape is to represent you looking side on at the edge of a wing. The green serrated line is what's known as the chord line. It goes from the leading edge to the back of the wing. It's a straight line.
Right.
That line, is what must be pitched above horizontal for lift to be created. Because if that green serrated line is, let's say, even with the purple line, the plane will be straight, but it will actually be losing lift bit by bit. It will actually be descending because it doesn't have any pitch above that purple horizontal line. So for lift to happen, that chord line of the wings has to be above horizontal at all times. That means if you're flying from London to Los Angeles, which is about an 11-hour flight, at all times, the chord line of the wings, and consequently, so will the nose of the plane, be pitched above horizontal, because it has to be to get from London to Los Angeles. Because it can't get up into the air and hold an altitude and go between those two locations without lift. Because without lift, then it's not an airplane. It's not going to stay in the air. It's going to go falling to the ground, into the ocean, right? So lift requires horizontal to exist. So horizontal, remember, cannot exist on a globe. There is no reference for horizontal. Horizontal and vertical cannot exist because the horizontal is a constant orientation, and it has to be a constant orientation for not just celestial navigation and surveying, but for flight. Horizontal cannot change to some other thing. It must stay as it is in the exact same orientation. So for lift to happen, there needs to be a pitch above horizontal. It's that simple.
Right.
So that means for a whole flight for 11 hours from London to Los Angeles or Los Angeles to London, right? I'm just using that because I've taken that flight as an example. For that 11 hours, right, even if they've changed an altitude here and there, they're still the horizontals are still all parallel with each other. That means you're basically talking about one horizontal line between London and Los Angeles.
There you go.
Because they have to be pitched above that to hold lift.
Yeah, for those of you who are watching and don't quite get what he's saying here, the purple line would be the Earth's surface. And as you know, the Earth's surface can't be a single horizontal line. By the way, I also find it's intriguing, because I've flown a whole bunch of flights over the years, and when you get to cruising altitude, it feels like, of course, you're going perfectly level, but you're not. You're going at least a 3% pitch.
Yes. The purple line would be the horizontal that's created by the gyroscope, and that's the reference for the amount of pitch. So we'll get to the attitude indicator in a minute, but basically it's showing, it creates the horizontal, it's showing you the horizontal, it's showing you how much pitch. What you'll notice, and everyone who's flown will have noticed this, is that on a plane, when they're bringing the trolleys up and down when the stewardesses are bringing the trolleys of drinks and everything up and down through the plane, right? They always have brakes on the back because the plane is always slightly pitched up at the front. So they have to put brakes on at the back so that the trolley doesn't start rolling back because it has a lot of weight, rolling back down through the plane. And what they have to do is if they're going to descend, and they're going to descend, more often they'll do it by pitching below horizontal, all passengers and crew and all trolleys and everything else, all trolleys must be put away and secured, and all passengers and crew must be seated and belted. They must have their belts on. That is the way it has to be.
Right.
So to fly around a globe, you would have to start off, well, you wouldn't even have a horizontal to start with. But the point is, you'd have to pitch down. There is no if, buts, or maybes. And to do that means you won't have lift, right? And it would mean everyone would have to be in their seats. The whole thing would not work because airplanes just wouldn't exist. Simple as. It would just be an unworkable scenario, basically. It can only work with a horizontal. Basically, with the Earth as a flat plane, flat stationary plane, that's the only way it can work.
It's good. I like it.
Yeah, good. Well, it's going to get better.
Okay. Do I go to the next one?
Please.
All right. Next one is going to be, where are we going to? Number 5. Let's see what happens when I do that. Okay, that one's going to have to be down here.
It's the one before that. It should be.
Oh, is the one before that?
Yeah, it has all little airplanes.
It's not that one?
On it.
Hang on. Oh, this one. No?
Where is it?
No, because that one is the, that's that. Did I miss one?
I just make sure I definitely sent you that. 1 second now. Just give me.
If you didn't, you can always drop it in here, and I'll.
Yeah, just give me a moment now, and I'll. Let me see.
I'll look real quick. Hopefully, I didn't misnumber them. I got 3 of the indicators.
No, I never sent. 1 second, I'll send it to you now because I'd rather you have this than not have it. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. I'll only be a moment because this is part of it. That's my fault then.
It's all right. You're a terrible person.
I am.
Drop it in the you can just drop it in the Skype chat and I can grab it from there. It's going to be tiny.
Yeah. 1 second now. As soon as I see it, yeah. I don't know where it's gone to.
It's all right. We got time. It's okay. I know. I like what you're saying so far. And by the way, it makes sense because a 3% grade would be barely enough for the average person to even tell when they're walking up and down the aisle.
Yes.
But I bet you if you started thinking about it, if you were looking for it, it's like, oh, hey, when you if you're using the bathroom or the back of the plane, you're going to be walking a little bit faster.
Yeah, because you are actually going downhill. That's the thing about it.
Or you could bring your rollerblades.
Yes, if you want.
And then you would probably never fly again because.
Well, that's why if the drink cart loses its brakes, it's going back.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Excellent point. Did you? When have you seen one of our famous American disaster movies where the cart went forward? It always goes back.
It's always going flying back, hitting elbows,
yep,
smashing someone in the back of the plane.
All right. So
you should have got it there.
I do. Let me save it to desktop. We'll just call it whatever that is, and it'll put it right on the desktop, and then we will browse for it. And we're going to have to browse separately. So we're going to browse to the desktop. And it'll be called this one. There we go.
Yes, I apologize for that.
No, again, you're a terrible guest and you're never coming on again, but that's okay. Let's, is that okay if we stretch it about that far?
Yeah, whatever. As long as you reckon your audience can see it. That's all that matters.
Yep.
This is showing different pitch angles and their effects, basically. So in the top left-hand corner, you have nose high level flight, right? So what that would be is during flight, let's just say you're flying at a cruising speed, you're going to have a pitch of 3 to 5 degrees. Right?
Okay.
This basically, I won't go too far into what they're showing here. You're going to have a pitch about 3 to 5 degrees, right? And let's just say you're flying at 35,000 feet and you have a pitch of 3 to 5 degrees.
Okay.
If you want to speed up and you hold that same 3 to 5, let's say you have a 3.5 degree pitch. and you add thrust, what's going to happen is you're going to generate more lift. So what's going to happen is you're going to go up. Right now, with commercial flights and just flying in general, but especially with commercial flights, there's basically sky highways where you're on a track in the sky and you have to hold that track and altitude. And if you want to change your altitude, you've got to contact ground control and request for permission to change your altitude. So if you're at 35,000 feet and you want to go up to 37,000 feet, you've got to request to do that. So what pilots have to do is, if they need to speed up, what they'll do, but hold the same altitude, is they'll bring, let's say the pitch is 3 to 5 degrees or 3.5 degrees, they'll bring the pitch down to about 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees. So that means they're moving at a fast pace. So let's say they're flying at 500 miles an hour with a 3.5 degree pitch, and they want to speed up to 600 miles an hour, but hold the same altitude to cover more ground over whatever course of time. Then they're going to bring down the pitch to about 2 degrees, maybe 1.5 to 2 degrees above horizontal. But they will not pitch below horizontal, and they won't pitch at exactly horizontal, because they need to hold the lift. So if they add thrust and they hold the same pitch, they're going to go up. And at that point in commercial airliners, you're going to go up into the path of another possibly oncoming airliner. So if you see it like that, it's like you driving over into the wrong side of the road. It's that kind of thing. So it's extremely dangerous. If they want to fly slower but hold the same altitude, then they're going to pitch up higher. So instead of being at 3.5 degrees, they're going to pitch up to about 6-7 degrees above horizontal. If they want to descend, they're going to pitch below horizontal. If they want to descend and hold the same airspeed, they're going to pitch below horizontal, as opposed to what can happen is they can drop their airspeed, and that will limit the amount of the amount of lift, because thrust creates lift. Right, I won't go into all the details of how it does it, but it creates lift, right, because it's got to do with the tail of the plane. So if they want to hold the same speed but descend, right, it's something they'll have to request permission to do because they're descending to a different altitude, then they're going to pitch below horizontal. And as soon as they descend to the altitude they want to be at, then they'll come back up to a pitch above horizontal. Now, if you hold the same altitude throughout the whole flight and you hold the same speed, let's say the average speed is 550 miles per hour, and you fly for 9 hours straight, and that's excluding the takeoff and the landing portions, then for 9 hours straight, you've flown at 550 miles an hour with a 3 degree pitch above the same horizontal line. So if you traveled 3,000 miles, right, that means you've flown 3,000 miles of a straight horizontal line. And you can't do anything else other than that if you want to fly a plane, because lift makes it impossible to do anything else. You must be pitched above horizontal, and any pitch below that horizontal or any change from that position will cause you to either gain or lose altitude. And if you pitch, as I said, below horizontal, that's always, and I even have, I'm not going to show it here, but I do have on my other computer from Boeing even a citation stating all pitch below horizontal is a descent. Now, you can't fly around the globe, right, and have lift. It's impossible. Not only do you not have horizontal, technically there is no way to have horizontal on the globe. You can have a straight line tangent, but you can't have a horizontal, because there is every point along the surface of a sphere or a circle will create a new tangent. That means two different tangents or 5 different tangents can't all be horizontal. But there is only one orientation of horizontal, and it must be adhered to constantly while flying. Now, obviously, fighter jets are going to be able to do all kinds of aerodynamics, right? But that might all happen within a 4 square mile area, let's just say, or a cubic mile area. Whereas if you're talking about going from A to B, you're flying from Denver to Houston or whatever, right? In the US, you're holding a horizontal. And if, as I said, if you drop in altitude, you're just holding the same horizontal, but that 2 horizontals are parallel to each other. So there's no change in pitch. You're holding the same pitch, just dropping down or going up it's the same horizontal, just at different parallels, different elevations, or altitudes, I should say, for air travel. So that means there's no way around it. So,
okay, can I interject really quick?
Yeah.
All right, this is great. So, a couple people in the chat. We have Iron Horse says, and just to kind of, a lot of what you're explaining to us can help us when we have these conversations with our globe friends, saying, hey, you know, if you want to talk about aviation and how it proves flat Earth, we can use these examples. So it's very useful, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain it to us, because you're doing a great job and it's easy to follow. But some people are going to say, okay, dropping the nose isn't necessary because they're only dealing with 8 inches every mile, 1 mile at a time. So how would you combat that? I guess your 3,000 mile example, you know, I forget what you said, from here to London, how many miles of curvature should there be that they're accounting for?
Well, they can't. That's the point. See, this is the thing about lift. To account for that 8 inches, which would be a squared function over the course, over a convex surface of a globe of radius 3959 miles, you've got to pitch below horizontal. It's a second by second. You see, if you do the maths, it's a second by second below horizontal pitch. So if you were on a globe, you would have to get up to what would be cruising altitude, and from that very second on, you couldn't have above horizontal pitch, because that will only allow you to fly straight. You then have to start gradually, second by second, pitching below that horizontal line. Now, what happens when you pitch below that horizontal line?
You're going to go down?
Yes, because you're losing lift. It's impossible, because as soon as you're trying to account for some 8 inches per mile squared that doesn't exist in reality, was never measured and cannot be measured, when you're trying to account for that, you will be losing lift and falling directly out of the sky. This is why the lift effect cannot be beaten. If you understand.
And real quick, let me chime in there, because Brian said it's 8 inches per mile squared, and don't forget, and I know other people will come at me for this one, don't forget the speed, because the faster you go, the faster you have to adjust for it. You know, no different than flying over a basketball with a toy.
Well, if they were adjusting for this thing, it would be showing in the data.
Right.
And and the lift effect couldn't exist. So it's either the lift effect exists or it's a globe. It's one or the other. It's that simple.
All right.
Right? That's the best way to describe it in one sentence.
Gotcha.
Go on to the next, unless there's another question, if you want to the next diagram, please, Mark.
Okay. Slides, and which one did I leave off?
I just wanted to say,
go ahead.
Shout out to Divergent Droid, who was helping email me some pitch data. I don't know if we'll necessarily be able to use it this stream, but we can definitely look at it for the future, because I think we have some good examples.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna blow this up, so it's gonna crop us.
This is a diagram of the attitude indicator, right?
Okay.
So this orange little circle in the center, and these two orange lines to the left and right of it, that is the white line that they're in alignment with, and the two white, let's say, partitions at either side. That is the horizontal that's been created by the horizontal gyroscope within the plane, right? So this is the reference that pilots will use. You have to remember, the gyroscope is a reference, right? So a pilot will see the gyroscope. They'll be able to determine their pitch via the horizontal that's being created, right, by the gyroscope, and then they can put on autopilot, right? So if you go on to the next one, please, Mark, because I just wanted to show that briefly, just so people could see it without me having all my things pasted onto it.
Hopefully it's that one.
Yeah, that's the one, I think. Yeah, it's got a red line at the top. Okay, so
got it.
The three green lines there. So you have a green line either side there at the two white partitions, and a green line across those two orange parts, those three orange parts. That is horizontal. That is the horizontal that's being created by the gyroscope. The orange line above that would be your cruising altitude, cruising speed, pitch, right? That would be the pitch you'd hold for that. The red line would be the pitch you'd hold if you're coming in to land because it's 10 degrees and a bit above, right?
Sure.
And the blue line would be a pitch below that horizontal. So the whole point is that that green line is your horizontal, and that green line is your reference. If you're a pilot, your reference now, it's obviously it's not going to be green on this one. If this was an actual, it's going to be just the two orange parts. But I put in the green line just so for the audience to reference it and see it properly. So they're always referencing that horizontal that's created by that green line. So when you're flying, let's just say, and you set your autopilot, this orange line will be what your pitch will normally be. Around that would be what it normally is when you're flying at cruising altitude and cruising speed. So as I said earlier, if you're flying for 9 hours at 550 miles per hour and you're holding the same altitude and you're flying between 3,000 or whatever miles between two locations, then that will be, if you don't have any need to change anything, you can just leave it on autopilot, foregoing takeoff and landing, then that's just going to be your pitch for the whole flight. So for the whole flight, you have this orange line, that is your pitch above the green line for the whole flight, and your autopilot's on. And pilots, obviously, once there's no bad weather at, and they just need to keep a check on all the instruments, and obviously they have to do safety checks and all the rest of it. But basically, once they set their autopilot, they can leave it like that for majority of that 9 hours and leave it do its thing. So as long as they have that orange line at that position in relation to the green one, then they have a 100% positive lift generated, and they're opposing 100% of the weight of the plane. If at any point they have a pitch that's similar to where this blue line is, that means they're descending. If they have a pitch that where that red line is, that means it has to mean that either they want to fly very, very slow while holding the same altitude, because the higher your pitch is, the more lift you're going to be creating, right?
Right.
And you can fly very slow and have a high pitch, but if you want to fly fast, you have to have a lower pitch, right? So, so higher pitch, flying slower, lower pitch, flying faster, but the pitch is never below horizontal, unless you want to descend, right? So if you go on to the next one, please, Mark.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Can do. Is it it's the white one, right?
No, the next one is another one.
Give me a sec.
One of those with different colors on it.
That one.
Yes.
Quick question. Once we wrap up on the planes, are we going to be able to get to your latest debunking the rotation of the Earth for the final experiment? I think that would be really good to touch on.
Absolutely.
Next.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, this won't be taking too much longer. But yeah, we'll get to that because that is very prevalent with the TFE thing going on at the moment.
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, this is great, but we're being super technical. I would love to get to that too before we. So if we.
Yeah, no worries. We'll get to that. No hassles. So earlier on, you were asking about pendulous veins. About DJ, you were asking about your friends who ask about what would happen. But you were saying that they were saying gravity makes the plane go around. Basically, this is what people think. It's just what they're told. So they say what they're told. Right? That's what basically happens. So what they're actually claiming is, if you see this blue line here that's going across the horizontal, I have two green lines at either side of it. What they're actually saying is the pendulous veins are causing this blue line to become where that green line is. So what they're trying to say is that this is completely in opposition to lift. But what they're trying to say is that that blue line ends up being down where the pitch of the green line is, but that is then your new horizontal, right? Because it would be a gradual thing. And then it would go down further and further, but that would be a gradual thing. And they think, well, that's just what happens. Gravity, right? Because they don't know what gravity is. Gravity just causes the plane to do that. And so what happens is that what would be your horizontal here at the blue line, that horizontal, which wouldn't be horizontal at that point, is down where the green line is, right? So the whole center line of the gyro is down where the green line is. But what they don't realize is this orange line, right? Or sorry, this purple line, this will be your amount of pitch above the blue line, which would be your horizontal. So just like earlier where I had the orange line above the horizontal, now I have a purple line above the horizontal. What would happen is that if that blue line was being pulled down out of position by the pendulous veins, which means it's not a horizontal anymore, it's just a tangent to a globe, right? The problem, what they don't understand is what corrects the purple line. Because remember, the gyro is a mechanical reference. That's all it is. So if you have a plane set and on autopilot where it has 3 degrees above this 0, if that 0 changes its position, that plane is still in the same position. So the gyro 0 is changing position, but the amount of pitch above it is not is changing, but it's changing in the positive. So what would happen is that blue line would end up down where the green line is, and the purple line would end up where the orange line is, and the plane would go into a stall after a very short amount of time, which would mean the pilots lose control of the plane and is falling out of the sky. Because nobody, unless there's a pilot there incrementally all the time, right, trying to make up for this curve that doesn't exist, right, and defying the existence of the lift effect and defying horizontal, unless there's a pilot sitting there all the time constantly trying to follow that blue line down to where it becomes the green line, right, unless that's happening, and it's not, right, and lift effect doesn't exist and horizontal doesn't exist, unless that's happening, then what they're claiming is so ridiculous that it would cause everyone in the plane to die. Because the purple line would eventually have a pitch above the green line of maybe 10, 20 degrees. That's what would happen, because there's no one there correcting the orange line. The orange line is going to be held as it is. If the gyro was changing, the mechanical gyro was changing its position, that's not going to change what the plane is doing. The mechanical gyro has no sway over the plane. It's just a reference. So if the reference changes its position, the plane is not changing its position. It has to be changed by the pilot. Now, the autopilot, there is no function in existence where an autopilot, right, somehow where the gyro is a sentient being that is directly connected to the autopilot and tells the autopilot, I'm going to change now, even though the autopilot is technological and the gyro is mechanical. None of that happens. It cannot happen because you have to defy the existence of horizontal and the existence of the lift effect. What would happen in that instance is everyone would die. And that's what would happen. Now, that's the implications of what would happen in that scenario. So if you want to go on to the next one, Mark, we only have a couple left.
Sure. Okay.
When you're ready. It's the first
I
of
believe
the
it's... Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Okay. Ignore everything but what I point out here. Look at the orange line that says pitch, and look at the altitude press, the black line down at the end. They're the only ones that matter. The pitch, right? So this is the pitch line, and this is the altitude press line. Anyone who downloads this and looks at this, what they'll notice is two things. Number one, the 0, which is at either side here, it's over at the right-hand side for the pitch degrees, is that the pitch is always above the 0, and the only times when there's a pitching down, or any pitch close to down to 0, you will notice that there is a direct correlation with altitude. So when they pitch down and change in altitude, go down or up, you will notice that, when they pitch down or up, you'll notice that there's a change in altitude. Whereas for the 2 hours from 8:05 to 10:05, the pitch stays constant and the altitude stays constant. So if you just go on to the next one, please, Mark, the next slide, please.
Yep. I got it. It is this one.
Yep. Okay. So
is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. So this purple box is so ignore the rest of that and just look at the purple box. The reason I'm saying ignore the rest of that is because this is a flight that took off from San Francisco and had to do an emergency landing in Honolulu. But for 2 hours of that flight, there was no problems whatsoever. 0 problems. It was only after that there were some issues with an engine and they had to land. And as I said, no one got injured, no one got hurt. It's all there within the report. It's not like I'm not using data of a flight where somebody died or any disaster like that. What you will notice is within this purple box is that the pitch in orange and the altitude press in black are straight lines, right? And both of them stay straight for the whole 2 hours from 8:05 to 10:05. And what you notice is the pitch has about a 3-degree above the zero, which is zero is horizontal. So there's a constant 3-degree above horizontal pitch for that 2 hours. And that they flew, we worked it out, that they were flying about almost exactly 500 miles an hour, which means they flew 1,000 hours between 8:05 and 10:05. So if you want to show just the next one, please, Mark.
Sure.
Just because it's more of a blown up version of the pitch data. Thank you. Okay, you can zoom in on it a little bit if you want, but this just shows people that for those 2 hours, that is what a flight. Remember the flight I told you about for 9 hours? Well, that is what would be happening for that 9 hours. If there's no problems, and most of the time there isn't, and there's no weather issues or anything, and they don't need to change altitude, then that black line that shows the altitude press, which is altitude pressure, for that black line would stay equal as it is, right, and straight because they're flying over a horizontal plane. So your altitude is going to be a constant straight line over that horizontal plane. And the pitch, right, of the pitch angle will be about 3 degrees as it shows above that little grey line that's below it. And it's a constant holding of that pitch above that horizontal line. So that horizontal line is a constant, and for just this 2 hours they flew 1,000 miles at 500 miles an hour with no bothers, constantly holding pitch above that horizontal. And now, as I said, if they didn't have an engine issue, the rest of the flight would have looked exactly basically like that. Unless weather or engine issues or whatever, or issues with the wing or something, then that is exactly what it looks like. That means what they're showing you there means that the Earth cannot be anything but a flat stationary plane. It cannot be. That is the data that shows it without a doubt. No ifs, buts, or maybes. No argument, no going back on it. There's no globe in this data. There can't be because they have to reference horizontal. It's flat. It's that simple.
Did you before you go to your last slide? I got to mention to you. Did you ever get? I think I sent it to you. The flight tracking software of all the flights that were flying over the United States over a particular day in real time. Did I ever send that to you?
I don't.
Maybe.
Think so, no.
Well, what it did was, and it was really interesting, where because you've seen like Flight Aware and those things where it's a top-down view, you can see all the planes, crisscrossing, because you're looking from the top down. But this one actually turned it horizontal, and I found it fascinating that when the planes went up, two things. One, when the planes went up and then they leveled off, they were absolutely perfectly flat until they went down most of the time. But the other part that struck me was, again, blew me away, which was down below when you were looking at the United States, the United States map, it was absolutely tabletop flat. And it's like, wait a minute, shouldn't the raw data be curved? Because if you're showing me tabletop flat, that means you took whatever the data you were looking at and squished it to make it flat. Why? Why would you do it that way? You would just show the raw data. I will send it to you after we're done here. It's fascinating. I put it out there years ago. I think if you haven't seen it already, I think you'll really get something out of it.
This is the reason, though. This is the reason, because when they're referencing reality, they have to reference reality, which means they have to reference a flat stationary plane. They can't reference anything else. As I said, the lift effect makes it impossible to fly around the globe. And as I said, the pitch data is not an argument, it's just a fact. As Nathan would say, bosh, pitch data. It's like when somebody says, have you any measurements that the Earth is flat or any proof the Earth is flat? Pitch data. End of. There's no if, buts, no maybes. There's no globe in any of this. It can't be involved. You know what I mean? It's like trying to put a square in a round hole, square peg in a round hole. It won't work.
Right.
End of story. If you just want
what is your
into the last? Before you.
Oh no, go ahead.
You say what you're going to say. You ask what I was going to ask.
Oh no, I was just going to say. So what do we? As I'm trying to shrink this thing down because this is a big image.
Sorry.
Wow, that's all right. It's not your fault. I gotta see if I can actually get it in freaking frame.
If you want, I'll make it smaller and send it to you.
Nah, it's all right. I got it. It's gonna take a minute. Okay, what are we looking at?
Yeah, what you're looking at there is the blue line, right? Is the 1,000 mile long line that's shown in the pitch data there, right?
Right.
Point A is San Francisco. Point B is Honolulu, right?
Right.
Underneath it, right, you have this red arced line, right, that's just up off the surface of what is a globe, what would be a circle, or I'm referring to it as the globe Earth of a radius 3,959 miles. As you can see, I have down there underneath arc length 1,000.366 miles. The red line would be 6 miles above, a 6-mile line above that globe, right? That would be the altitude that the plane would be holding, because most planes, the average altitude between 5 and 7 miles above Earth, most commercial airliners. So as an average, I went with 6 miles, right? So what would happen is, if the plane, right, was flying over a globe, and the pilot had to adhere to the lift effect, which means that he had to fly a horizontal straight line. What would happen after 1,000 miles is, if you look at that 132, if you subtract 6 from that for the altitude, it would mean that the plane is 126 miles out of altitude. Now, it's a case of, in reality, are planes hundreds of miles out of altitude before they come into land, or are they always holding the same altitude? Not losing altitude, not rising in altitude. As I said, remember, there's highways in the sky, so any planes going up in altitude or down in altitude, right, randomly are going to be crashing into other planes, right, because they're in a highway they're not supposed to be in. So the whole point of this is that their claim is the globe underneath. Reality is the blue line.
Right.
That's what it means. That's
very interesting. Very cool.
I dig it. You did a nice job with that.
Yeah, that's super
well
helpful.
Thank you. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you for having me.
All right, and we're going to segue fairly quickly into, because we only have so much time left in the show, DJ.
I know, but let's just, I think what he posted yesterday is really interesting, because it's basically like, we know time-lapse photography proves the Earth is not moving. So he was able to break it down by the final experiment footage and show that the sun is clearly moving and that the Earth is not. And so I think it's important to talk about, because there's so much in-house fighting about, did they go, did they not? It's like, we're not going to get into that. We believe they went. But Brian was able to really show nicely and concisely how the sun is clearly moving.
Yeah, it was actually something I've been looking for. Literally, I spent years also looking for this particular information about mounts, right? The EQ mounts, solar mounts. Basically, they're powered to follow a celestial body. Now, the claim is that, let's just say the mount is following the sun or a star, right? What it's doing is it's claimed to be acting against the rotation of a globe Earth, because the official claim is that we're on a rotating globe and we only see the sun, let's just say, I'll use the sun as the example, appear to move east to west in the sky, whereas it's actually stationary, but it appears to move because we're actually moving from west to east. So the claim is that that's what's known as the Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect is just an optical phenomenon, and that's what it is. That when you see the sun moving across the sky, or the stars, not the moon so much, because that actually does move in their paradigm, but the sun and stars are stationary. So when in their paradigm, when you're seeing them move, it's claimed to only be apparent, right? So you're rotating, giving you the impression that these things are moving, whereas it's actually you. So the claim is that you're fooling yourself, right? Now, in Dave McKagan's video, what he shows, and if you play it in whatever way you want to play it there, what he shows in the video is that his camera and mount do a 360 degrees, then it stops and it starts going back the other way, right? But it's moving at 15 degrees per hour back the opposite way. So it's not tracking the sun anymore. The sun is going, let's say, to the left and the mount is turning to the right. Now, the problem with that is you can see the mount is moving at the exact same rate as it was moving, because the shadow shows that it's moving, and these are designed to move at sidereal and basically solar rate. They're not designed to move faster than that, from what I can gather. But this shows that this mount is moving at the same rate as the shadow, So it's moving at 15 degrees per hour. As that's what it was set at, it's just started moving in the opposite direction. But the problem is, it should look like, if we were on a rotating globe, then it should look like it's stationary. And the reason it should look like it's stationary is because if the Earth is the reason why we see if the Earth rotating is the reason why we see the sun appearing to move, then if the mount starts going in the opposite direction, to us it should look like the camera is stationary, because it should be moving at the exact same rotational rate, right, as the globe Earth that it's claimed to stand on. But when it starts going back the opposite way, as you can see, it's equal in its rate in comparison to the shadow. When it's going back the opposite way, it's actually moving, and everything else underneath it is stationary, which means that the only things that are actually moving is the sun and the camera itself, proving that the Earth is absolutely stationary and that the sun is moving. That's what it proves outright. And the problem is that what I've noticed from the comments is the ballers actually haven't even understood this yet. The flat earthers are understanding it immediately. The ballers are not understanding this. Is that their claim was just completely debunked by their own footage from the TFE in Antarctica. So now, like when they say to us, how do you explain a 24-hour Antarctic sun? Let's just take it as this all happened. They filmed the 24-hour Antarctic sun. Let's not go into whether they did or didn't do it for this instance, right? Then this means that how then, as a baller, how do ye explain the 24-hour Antarctic sun, as this shows that the Earth is stationary? So within your paradigm, there isn't a stationary Earth. There is a rotating Earth. So now they don't have any explanation for what we saw. We have no explanation for what we saw. It's just the sun is doing whatever it's doing. Basically, what it means is that now that proves the Earth is stationary outright, because that camera cannot do that. It cannot do that if we're on a rotating globe that's supposed to be going from left to right, rotating at the same rate as this camera starts going on. The fact that the camera is going at that rate in that right now, it should be in alignment with those mountains and the whole lot going around, but it's not. It's moving independently, completely ending rotation completely.
Well, that's super interesting. I think that's like on the flat side, we understand that okay, because time-lapse photography, correct me if I'm wrong, shows that the stars are moving above and the camera never moved, right? So this is just another example where the sun is clearly moving, and the camera had to follow it.
Well, the thing is that the camera started moving the opposite direction from the sun. It stopped going right to left across the screen and starts going left to right. And you can see from the shadow underneath it.
Can you break that down? What does that mean exactly then?
What it means is that the reason the sun is claimed to move is that it's actually, they claim it's not moving and we're rotating. It's claimed that we're on something that's rotating from left to right, giving us the impression that the sun is going from right to left. But once the camera starts turning stops following the sun and starts rotating the other way, it means that the camera is then going in the direction the Earth is claimed to turn, and at the rate that the Earth is claimed to turn in that direction, right? And if that was happening, we wouldn't see the camera turn the other way. It can't turn the other way. It would appear stationary because at that point it's moving with the rotation of the globe. But as you can see, it is actually turning. And you can see it's moving at the same rate as the shadow. And that proves the only two things that are moving there is the sun and the camera. The tripod, the Earth it's on, the mountains, that's all stationary. It can't not be under those circumstances. So that ends rotation completely. Not saying it wasn't already ended, but that is just because it's from the TFE, but because it's from that expedition, that makes it extra controversial, let's just say.
And before we let you go on this topic, though, were there any other anomalies that you noticed that prove flat Earth and that
Yeah, there was. I made a video just prior to that, just the day before that, about shadows. I used an image from there and showed how the shadows that were involved, how they have divergence, that can't happen within the claims of the heliocentric paradigm. Because all shadows must be parallel constantly. They can change in length and they can change in direction, but they all must follow each other and they all must be parallel within their paradigm. Because what they're claiming is that because of the proximity of the globe Earth to their sun, that they receive what would be basically, and mathematically, it's parallel light, which means that there's no big divergence of the light happening after 93 million miles. So at that point, they can't have a situation where the sun is high in the sky and you have a row of trees and the shadows are parallel, but then as the sun goes lower in the sky, because apparently, as it appears to, I should say, as it moves away, right, later on in the evening, what will happen is those shadows will start diverging. Now, within their paradigm, that can never happen. You can never have a diverging shadow within their paradigm. It can't happen. So I did make another video the day before that showing about shadows.
Okay. And what do you think of the fact that they saw the 24-hour sun? I mean, let's just say that it really exists and it's there and we can just accept it. Do you have an idea of what could be? I mean, have you looked into that?
I don't. My honest position on that, and as I said, I've said that before many times, is that I don't know what the sun is, what it's composed of, or how it does what it does. And I know for definite, I'm not going to go into it here because it's pretty in-depth, I know for definite that nobody else does either. The stories they give people is only made up stuff that they are presuming, adding things to. They actually don't know. So I don't know how anything in the sky does what it does. For instance, this is something a lot of people don't realize. If I take an angle, let's just say an elevation angle to Polaris, I'll just use Polaris because it's stationary, it's the easiest one to use. If I take an elevation angle to that and I'm north of the equator and I get 45 degrees, if I move up, directly up in the sky 6 miles and I take an elevation angle to Polaris, making a horizontal at my point 6 miles up, that's 6 miles up, that's a horizontal line 6 miles above the earth. What will be my angle? It's 45 degrees at sea level. What will it be 6 miles up?
Don't know.
45 degrees.
Ah.
Whereas if it's a mountain and I take an angle to the top of that mountain from the base of the mountain, and then I rise up, let's say the mountain is 3,000 feet high, or let's say it's 3,000 feet, and I rise up 1,000 feet and take another angle with a horizontal that from my oil line, then and let's say my angle at the base of the mountain is 27 degrees. If I've taken an angle 1,000 feet up, I'm not going to get 27 degrees between my position and the top of the mountain. So terrestrial objects adhere to that. They adhere to that change. Celestial objects don't adhere to that. No matter how high you go up, your angle doesn't change. The angle to the celestial body doesn't change. So that tells us that the celestial bodies they do not adhere to our terrestrial rules, and they do not behave like terrestrial objects, and so consequently they are a complete mystery, because it means no matter how high you go, you can never measure a height to them, because no matter how high you go, so if I try and work out or calculate a height to Polaris by using my 45 degree angle, right, what good is that when I raise up 6 miles up in the sky and I get another 45 degree angle? What happened to the 6 miles? So if I say, oh, Polaris is 48 miles high, and I raise up 6 miles, and then it's still 48 miles high. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't work. You cannot, they are, as Adam Meakin would say, it's the majesty of the heavens. They're the glory of God kind of thing. I don't know of any way, and I don't know of anyone who knows any way, of figuring out what they are, how they do what they do, or how to get to them, anything. So when it comes to the sun, 24-hour sun in the Antarctic, whatever the sun is doing or anything else above us, within the globe paradigm, right, they have to focus on that, because for them, their rotation in their globe is part of why we see them move. But for us, they're completely independent of our flat stationary plane. For reality, they're independent of the flat stationary plane we stand on. So if tomorrow there's 5 suns in the sky, that has no bearing on the geometry of the world. For us. For them, it's a major problem. For us,
perfect. So. Hey,
yep.
Hey Brian,
yes.
It's time for you to go to bed. Unfortunately, I know it's 5 a.m. and the sun will be up eventually where you are. But before we let you go, and again, I can't thank you enough for waking up early and spending your early morning hours with us. I'm sorry.
I've been up all night.
I'm so sorry. Can you tell people if they want to know more about what you're doing, where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Brian's Logic on YouTube. I don't have a whole lot of social media, probably should have, but if they want to find me or find my channel, I am Brian's Logic on YouTube. And that's where they'll find me there. I can leave an email if someone wants to contact me via email, but normally normally other than that, people can contact me through through Flat Earth Debate, through Nathan, or through Quantum Eraser. They can find they can get in contact with me that way.
Shout out Nathan Oakley. Yeah. The Earth is measured flat. Yep. All right. Any closing thing for you, DJ?
Nope, just thank you so much, Brian. That was very informative. So, hey, we learned something.
Thank you.
Any final words of wisdom for you, Brian?
I'm very happy to have been brought on. I'm glad you gave me this opportunity, and I think it's kind of it's better it happened this way, that I came on after the TFE happened than beforehand, because because the sting of that is taken out. Now it's starting to die out, whatever sting it gave to people. So I appreciate the opportunity to relay this information to your audience, and I hope that it helps them, and it helps them to, be able to see for definite there is without a doubt proof the Earth is flat and stationary. So thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Right. Oh no, happy. Stay on just for a minute. We're gonna run the slideshow because we're going to run the slideshow because I've screwed around with the screen so much I don't even want to take a chance trying to do anything else. We'll be back next week, same flat time, same flat channel. Say goodnight, DJ.
Good night, Strange World. Stay curious.
Say goodnight, Brian.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mark. Good night, DJ Curious.
And Peanut Gallery. What? There's not a cigarette? Wait, what? You're holding up your finger. What we doing Friday again? Oh, I'm sorry. Next week. You know what? You're absolutely right. We'll be back Tuesday. We won't be back next Friday. We'll be back normal time on Tuesday. So not same flat time, same flat channel. We'll be back Tuesday. Thank you. Again, that's why Peanut's there. He gets to correct me all the time. All right, guys. We're going to go to break. Thank you, everyone. And hot sex. Good night. Hang on for 3 minutes, Brian, and we'll let you go. Oh no, let's talk. The mics are hot. I don't care. I did. Actually, I learned more about that line than I had in a while, so it's good. It's good. And now, because I have some pilot friends that I could talk to about this, it'd be kind of fun. Oh, you know what I'll do while this is loading up? I will paste that link for you in the chat. Give me a second. Yeah, that right there is a really intriguing little video. I made it, oh God, it had to have been at least 6 years ago. You know what, I could tell you really fast when it was posted, I suppose. One sec. Let me just post it. Yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah, I think you'd dig it. It's a cool little video. Went back when I was living in Canada. I made this. It's different, that's for sure. Well, I lived in the west side of Canada in Victoria for a year with a flat earth woman. It was very nice. But she was way younger than me, and I probably, you know how that goes. Well, you know, Gen X and millennials, sometimes it doesn't work out. But it was fun. It was neat, and I made a lot of videos during that time, and just cranking out stuff because she was working at a video game company, so I was just, while she was working, I was just hammering the laptop, just bam, 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 bam. Kind of fun. But this is an interesting little one. You out of all the people will get it more than most because it doesn't show the pitch data necessarily, but it's a great graphic representation of the pitch data. Even though it's way pulled out, but you'll totally get it. But again, keep when you're watching it, take a look at the United States at the bottom. It's absolutely flat, and it's like, why would you have it represented as flat? Why wouldn't you? You know, because the raw data would be curved. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. All right, I gotta let me end this stream and then I'll let you go. Give me 1 second. It's almost over.
Paige needs to get into her PJs with her cup of cocoa and her 6 marshmallows. Night, Mark.
It's Karen.
Mike Jack. You
realize it's the same link every week. It never changes.
Yeah, I know. I should
That's
paste
Peanut
it somewhere, I think.
talking.